Welcome to another Movies Outpost recap. Today we will go over the G.I. Joe trilogy in release order, which does include Snake Eyes, which is honestly a banger. So make sure to stay watching till the end, and as always, enjoy the recap. G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra begins by taking us back to the year 1641 inside a prison in the Kingdom of France. A middle-aged man named James McCullen is locked away for selling weapons to the enemy and spreading chaos across the kingdom. One night, guards drag him from his cell to face execution. Knowing his death is moments away, James vows that his descendants will continue his vision of bringing chaos to the world. He is then executed while being forced to wear a burning iron mask. Fast forward 360 years later. A man also named James McCullen stands inside the NATO building. He is presenting a new weapon created by his company, Mars Industries, which was funded by NATO. The weapon uses nanotechnology, known as nanomites. James explains that these nanomites can break down even the strongest metals and are advanced enough to destroy an entire city in seconds. He also reveals that they can be controlled remotely. He goes on to say that the first shipment of this nanotechnology will be sent from a factory in Kyrgyzstan and stored inside NATO warehouses. The next day, 4 nanomite bombs stored at the Mars Industries factory are put inside a single suitcase and handed over to NATO forces, led by Duke and Ripcord. While transporting the case, a mysterious aircraft suddenly appears and opens fire on the helicopter escorting the team. The NATO soldiers respond by launching several missiles in an attempt to bring the aircraft down. But the attack has no effect. Using highly advanced technology, the unknown aircraft destroys several vehicles in the convoy and disables the remaining troops. The plane then lands and an armed force led by a woman steps out. Her team attacks the surviving NATO soldiers using sophisticated weapons, and during the chaos, she manages to steal the suitcase containing the nanomites. Realizing the case has been taken, Duke immediately tries to recover it. When he comes face to face with the group's leader, he recognizes her as a woman named Anna or Baroness. Before he can stop her, Baroness attacks Duke and attempts to escape. Moments later, another mysterious army arrives and launches an assault on Baroness's forces using even more advanced weaponry. Her team is quickly paralyzed, forcing Baroness to drop the nanomite suitcase and flee the scene. With the area secured, Duke retrieves the suitcase. The newly arrived troops then demand that he hand it over, but Duke refuses, explaining that NATO ordered him to protect the case until it reaches its destination. To prove they are not enemies, one squad member projects a hologram of General Hawk, the NATO commander, who asks Duke to surrender the suitcase so the tracking device inside can be temporarily deactivated. Duke still refuses and instead invites the squad to help him guard it. After the tracker is finally disabled, Duke and Ripcord agree to join the mysterious army. The team is flown to a secret bunker in the Egyptian desert known as the Pit. Once they arrive, General Hawk welcomes Duke and Ripcord and explains that he leads a top-secret military unit called G.I. Joe. This elite team is made up of the best soldiers from 23 countries around the world. Later, James contacts the G.I. Joe team through a hologram. He is clearly angry that he has not received any updates about the delivery of the 4 nanomite bombs. Not wanting the mission to fail, James instructs one of the squad members to open the nanomite suitcase. After providing the access code and confirming that all 4 bombs are still intact, James immediately ends the holographic call. Back on his submarine, James turns his anger toward Baroness, who failed to secure the nanomite suitcase. It is revealed that James had secretly ordered Baroness and her team to steal the case from NATO forces, allowing him to obtain the nanomites without raising suspicion. He explains that by having G.I. Joe open the suitcase, the tracking device inside has been reactivated, letting him pinpoint its location in the Egyptian desert. Soon after, James orders Baroness and Storm Shadow to seize the nanomite suitcase from G.I. Joe at once. He also instructs another operative, Zartan, to prepare for a mission at an underwater base. After arriving at the headquarters, a scientist known as the Doctor presents the results of his research to James. Through his experiments, the Doctor has created a special force made up of soldiers injected with liquid nanomites. With the nanomites in their bodies, these troops feel no fear and no pain. This new unit, known as the Cobra Troops, can also be controlled remotely. Impressed by the results, James orders the Doctor to send these troops to assist Baroness and Storm Shadow, who are preparing to seize the briefcase containing the nanomite bombs from G.I. Joe headquarters. At the same time, inside the underwater base, James reveals that he has already prepared 3 nanomite missiles, targeting Beijing, Moscow, and Washington as part of his plan to conquer the world. Meanwhile, back at the Pit, Duke asks General Hawk for permission to join the G.I. Joe team, explaining that he personally knows Baroness, the leader of the mysterious squad that tried to steal the nanomite suitcase in Paris. Elsewhere, Baroness returns home and meets her husband Daniel, who is clearly worried after hearing nothing from her while she was away. Baroness tries to calm him and asks him not to be angry. After Daniel leaves the room, Storm Shadow emerges from hiding and warns Baroness not to waste time and to carry out their mission that very night. Left alone, Baroness opens a ring box, triggering memories from 4 years earlier. She remembers the moment Duke proposed to her at a party, with her younger brother Rex, a military scientist, watching nearby. At the time, Baroness agreed to accept Duke's proposal on one condition, that Duke would always take care of her younger brother. During the mission Duke and Rex were preparing for, Duke promises Baroness that he will protect Rex and bring him home safely. Back in the present, Heavy Duty begins explaining how to use some of G.I. Joe's advanced weapons to Duke and Ripcord. Before they can officially join the team, both men are put through a series of tough training exercises to prove they are worthy.
Beginner's rock.
A few days later, Heavy Duty announces the results. Duke and Ripcord have performed well and are approved to join the G.I. Joe unit. That night, while the base is quiet and most of the team is resting, a vehicle equipped with a massive drilling machine breaks through the side of the pit. Storm Shadow, Zartan and a group of Cobra troopers emerge from the vehicle. After taking out a patrolling G.I. Joe soldier, Zartan disguises himself as one of the troops and makes his way to General Hawk's room to attack him. At the same time, Baroness and Storm Shadow work to open the safe and retrieve the suitcase containing the nanomite bombs. Despite being badly injured, General Hawk uses his remaining strength to activate the emergency alarm. The alert sends G.I. Joe troops rushing in and they manage to destroy the drilling vehicle in an attempt to stop the intruders. Meanwhile, Cobra troopers head to the pit's control room to help Baroness and the others escape. As Baroness and Storm Shadow prepare to flee using jetpacks, Duke steps in to stop them. Without realizing it, a Cobra trooper moves in from behind and attacks him. Just in time, Ripcord arrives, taking down the attacker and saving Duke as the battle inside the pit turns into complete chaos. Baroness and Storm Shadow manage to escape, but their path is blocked by Snake Eyes. Storm Shadow stays behind to face him, and during the fight he realizes that the warrior standing before him is his childhood friend. At the same time, Baroness attempts to escape using an elevator, but Scarlet stops her, leading to a fierce fight between the two. Storm Shadow eventually takes to the air using a jetpack, grabs Baroness and escapes the pit with the suitcase of nanomites. They board a mysterious aircraft waiting above and disappear. After the battle, Ripcord quickly checks on Scarlet and discovers that she has been injured during her fight with Baroness. Meanwhile, Snake Eyes is reminded of his past. He remembers his childhood in Tokyo, where he once stole food from a temple. He was caught and beaten by Storm Shadow. But the temple's head monk intervened, stopped the fight and invited Snake Eyes to stay and train in martial arts. Back in the present, inside James's headquarters, he orders Baroness and Storm Shadow to activate one of the nanomite bombs in Paris as his first act of terror, intending to avenge his past. In another room, the doctor injects nanomites into Zartan, allowing him to alter his face and appearance. At the pit, Duke and the others begin to suspect that James is the mastermind behind the attacks. Shortly after, Breaker uncovers new information about Baroness, revealing that she is married to Daniel, a scientist capable of accelerating the development of the nanomite technology. Believing Baroness will go to Daniel to activate the bomb, the team immediately flies to his laboratory. While flying to Paris, Duke is reminded of events from 4 years earlier. During a mission with Rex, Rex entered a laboratory just as it was struck by a fighter jet, causing a massive explosion that killed him. Days later, Rex's funeral is held, and a guilt-ridden Duke is unable to face Baroness, choosing to stay away from her until now. In the present, Baroness and Storm Shadow force their way into Daniel's laboratory in Paris and make him activate all the nanomite bombs inside the suitcase. Once the process is complete, Storm Shadow kills Daniel. Meanwhile, at the same time, the G.I. Joe team moves in, traveling in a van toward the laboratory. On the road, a team spots Baroness and Storm Shadow and immediately gives chase as Baroness heads toward the Eiffel Tower to detonate the nanomites. During the pursuit, Baroness opens fire and shoots Scarlet, knocking her from her motorcycle. Ripcord quickly arrives and rescues Scarlet before she is seriously hurt. Duke and Ripcord continue chasing Baroness's vehicle as it fires back at them. Snake Eyes manages to slip beneath the car and tries to shoot out the tires, but the attempt fails and he is forced to retreat. Moments later, a high-speed train crashes into Baroness's car, causing a sudden explosion. Despite this, Baroness and Storm Shadow survive. Acting quickly, they attach the nanomite bomb to a rocket launcher and move toward a nearby building close to the Eiffel Tower. Duke spots Baroness entering an elevator and rushes after her, while Ripcord tries to stop Storm Shadow. Unfortunately, Storm Shadow manages to fire the nanomite missile toward the Eiffel Tower, and the activated nanomite particles begin tearing the structure apart. On the rooftop, Duke confronts Baroness as she prepares to board the aircraft. He struggles with her, trying to grab the remote control used to activate the nanomites. Duke eventually manages to catch up to Baroness and forces his way onto the plane. At the last moment, he presses the control, shutting down the nanomites that are tearing through the Eiffel Tower. Although the nanomite particles are deactivated, the damage is already done, and the Eiffel Tower collapses. Elsewhere, Breaker discovers the body of a fallen Cobra trooper and attempts to extract memory impulses from the brain. During the process, the doctor remotely activates the nanomites inside the corpse, causing it to self-destruct. Despite this, Breaker manages to save part of the data before it is lost. Soon after, French military forces capture Breaker, Scarlet, and Heavy Duty. Snake Eyes, however, manages to avoid capture and escape, while the captured G.I. Joe members are being held. General Hawk meets with them and explains that the French government has agreed to release them, knowing they cannot detain them in France forever. Meanwhile, aboard the aircraft, Duke, now a hostage, apologizes to Baroness for what happened 4 years earlier. He explains why he vanished from her life and never faced her after Rex's death. As this happens, Storm Shadow reflects on his past. He remembers a childhood fight where Snake Eyes defeated him, earning praise from the monk who called Snake Eyes the better fighter. Hurt and angry, Storm Shadow left the temple. The next day, Snake Eyes saw Storm Shadow fleeing after he had killed the monk. Back at the G.I. Joe aircraft hangar, Breaker shares the recovered memory data with the team. The information reveals the location of James's headquarters, hidden deep in the North Pole region. At the North Pole, Baroness and Storm Shadow escort Duke through an underground tunnel. When the guards are briefly caught off guard, Duke makes a sudden move to grab the nanomite suitcase and escape. Storm Shadow reacts instantly, paralyzing Duke and stopping him from getting away. Although Duke is recaptured, he secretly activates the tracker inside the suitcase, allowing his team to locate him. Soon after, Duke is taken into Mars Industries' hidden headquarters beneath the ice. James confronts him and deliberately provokes him, leading James's men to brutally beat Duke. Watching this, Baroness is flooded with memories of her past with Duke and the moments they once shared. Meanwhile, aboard their aircraft, the G.I. Joe team reaches the North Pole and prepares to launch an assault. Back inside the base, James brings Duke to meet the Doctor, the scientist behind the nanomites. The Doctor begins placing the activated nanomite bombs into missiles designed to strike 3 major world cities and spread chaos. At the same time, G.I. Joe forces reach an ice tunnel leading into the base and quickly disable the guards stationed there. Inside, the Doctor prepares to inject nanomites into Duke. As he removes his mask, his true identity is revealed. He is Rex, Baroness's younger brother who Duke believed had died 4 years earlier. Rex explains that inside the laboratory he met Dr. Mindbender, the first scientist to discover nanomites. Just before the explosion, the two managed to escape and survive. Since then, Rex has been refining the technology, perfecting the nanomite research. With preparations complete, James launches 3 missiles carrying nanomite warheads. Nearby, Snake Eyes spots the missiles in flight and fires at one of them, destroying it before it can reach its target. After witnessing this, Storm Shadow realizes that the G.I. Joe team has discovered Mars Industries' secret base. He immediately begins preparing Cobra forces for an incoming attack. At the same time, Baroness grows increasingly troubled as memories of her past with Duke continue to resurface, leaving her torn and confused. In Washington, the President of the United States is urgently escorted into a secure bunker after officials confirm that a missile is heading toward the Capitol. Meanwhile, Ripcord takes off in an aircraft to intercept the missile while the rest of the G.I. Joe team pushes deeper into James's hidden headquarters. Overwhelmed by her memories, Baroness enters the Doctor's lab and attacks him in an effort to save Duke, who is about to be injected with nanomites. As Duke looks at Baroness's neck, he notices marks showing that she has already been injected with nanomites herself. Though injured, the Doctor uses a remote control to paralyze Baroness and threatens to kill her if Duke resists. The Doctor then reveals the truth. 4 years earlier, after Duke left and Rex saw Baroness broken and alone, he secretly injected her with nanomites to control her and force her loyalty. Elsewhere inside the base, Snake Eyes and the rest of the squad continue fighting their way through Mars Industries' facility. At the same time, aboard the main submarine, General Hawk orders Heavy Duty to lead an assault on the enemy's underwater base. As the assault begins, Cobra forces intercept the G.I. Joe team, leading to an intense underwater battle. After breaking through the defenses, Snake Eyes and the others reach the missile control room and guide Ripcord, who is still in the air, toward one of the remaining missiles. At the White House, the President of the United States is rushed by security into a bunker built by Mars Industries. At the same time, Cobra troops launch an attack on the G.I. Joe submarine. In response, General Hawk orders Heavy Duty to destroy the enemy cannon immediately. Back inside the base, James, now cornered, attempts to burn Duke alive. Duke manages to fight back using advanced G.I. Joe weaponry, causing the flames to turn on James instead and severely burn him. The Doctor is knocked down during the chaos, allowing Duke to grab the control device and reactivate Baroness, bringing her back to consciousness. The Doctor quickly escapes with the injured James. Meanwhile, Ripcord successfully destroys one missile before it reaches its target. Without hesitation, he redirects his aircraft toward another missile heading for Washington. Inside the bunker, a shocking betrayal occurs when a member of the President's staff opens fire on several bodyguards. Moments later, a man emerges from a hidden passage, stunning the President when he recognizes him from Mars Industries. Elsewhere, Snake Eyes disables the cannon attacking the G.I. Joe submarine, but Storm Shadow confronts him, leading to another fierce battle. At the same time, the Doctor escapes with James in a submarine. Duke and Baroness immediately pursue them in another submarine. The fight between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow continues until Snake Eyes finally defeats him. As the missile nears Washington, Ripcord manages to intercept it just in time. However, the activated nanomites begin attacking his aircraft. With no other option, Ripcord steers the nanomite-covered plane into space and ejects at the last second, escaping safely as the aircraft explodes. Back at the North Pole, the Doctor, now being pushed back, orders his men to destroy the ice slab above the base. The damage causes the entire facility to begin collapsing. As explosions tear through the structure, Scarlet, Breaker, and Snake Eyes rush toward an elevator and manage to escape to the surface just in time. Inside a submarine, the Doctor injects nanomites into James's badly burned body. This transforms James's head into iron, earning him the name Destro. The Doctor also injects nanomites into himself, taking on the identity of Cobra Commander. Soon after, G.I. Joe forces surround the submarine, capture both men, and place them in a high-security prison. Later, scientists inform Duke that removing the nanomites from Baroness's body will take a long time. Duke promises Baroness that he will do whatever it takes to save the woman he loves. The movie ends with Duke and Ripcord officially becoming full members of the G.I. Joe team as they head out on another secret mission. Meanwhile, back at the White House, the President of the United States is seen behaving strangely, hinting that not everything is truly over. G.I. Joe Retaliation begins with the squad infiltrating the Korean demilitarized zone to rescue a defector from North Korea. A man named Roadblock uses his thermogloves to breach the fence with Duke and Flint while the other two provide cover. Duke signals the defector with a red light, then moves in with Roadblock to take out two North Korean soldiers heading toward the defector, who is hiding in a truck. Just then, Roadblock sees Flint attacking an enemy tower and orders Mouse to shoot him if he causes any trouble. But on their way out, they see that Flint has secured the tower and hoisted the flag of the G.I. Joes over it. Later, the team celebrate at a bar and engage in friendly competitions, when Roadblock confronts Flint by dunking his head in water and holding him there as punishment for disobeying orders on the mission. Meanwhile, Duke is disclosed as the new post-nanomite war leader of the Joes, which includes Flint, Roadblock, Mouse, Lady J, and Snake Eyes, while their archenemies Cobra Commander and Destro are now under custody. However, their underlings Storm Shadow and Zartan are still on the loose. Elsewhere, Storm Shadow's cousin Jinx gets tested for the Joe squad by her blind master in a Japanese dojo, where she has to defend herself against Snake Eyes blindfolded. She uses her swords to hunt him down all around the dojo, managing to cut his palm in the process, but he distracts her by throwing a blood drop as a decoy for his position and retrieves a hair from her head to defeat her. She leaves in anger while the blind master hands Snake Eyes a sword and sends him away to uncover the plans of a rumored upcoming enemy attack. Meanwhile, Duke is playing video games with Roadblock at his house when they switch to a news channel and find that a civil war is raging in Pakistan after the president's murder. At the White House, the president's cabinet is contemplating its course of action in this case, with the president finally agreeing to a military intervention in Pakistan to recover its nuclear assets before the enemy can acquire them. Because of that, the G.I. Joes are tasked with disarming the nuclear bomb in Pakistan and narrow in on the location of the nuke in their plane as Duke briefs them about the mission, charging Roadblock with leading the ground force, while Flint and Jay are to act as backup for the squad, which then zips down on the enemy base, engaging in a firefight and taking out the enemy by the dozens. Duke closes up on the enemy soldiers, moving the nuke as he takes heavy fire. So Jay and Flint back him up and they soon get a hold of it before transporting it out of the base in their vehicle to their own camp. At the camp, Duke contacts the presidential cabinet, informing them of the success of the mission without any casualties, causing a cheer among them as they start to work on the Joe's extraction plan. Moments later, Duke and Roadblock engage in a shooting contest with the condition that Roadblock would take his next promotion if Duke wins, and Duke would have to babysit Roadblock's daughters if Roadblock wins. Duke tries to focus on his shot, but Roadblock distracts him, making him miss, while he decimates the target using a minigun. Meanwhile, at the White House, the president enters a shed with his bodyguard where he reveals himself to be Zartan, disguising himself as the president using nanomite technology, while the real president is held prisoner by his new Secret Service. He tells the president that he has ensured the G.I. Joes are out of the picture so that he can carry out his plans and demands the location of Cobra Commander and Destro, which the president refuses to reveal. Back at the camp, the Joes prepare for extraction as the air support helicopter arrives at their location, but the aircraft starts bombing the camp, spreading chaos all around. Flint is knocked over by a missile's impact. Thus, Duke risks his life to get him to cover behind a vehicle. However, a helicopter targets them, and Duke manages to shove Flint to safety, but he himself gets blown up. The rest of the Joes are also massacred. As Lady J, Flint and Roadblock jump into a nearby well to avoid fire, holding their breath underwater to avoid detection by the enemy. At the White House, Zartan conducts a press conference, informing the media that the G.I. Joes went rogue, claiming that Snake Eyes assassinated the president of Pakistan while the Joes unit took the nuke for themselves and abandoned their duty. Thus, he claims to have no other choice but to use his special ops unit called the Cobra to eliminate the Joes so he can end them and secure the nuke. When Roadblock, Jay, and Flint make their way up to the surface in the morning, They find that their squad has been reduced to ashes. Roadblock takes Duke's dog tag off of his body and takes charge of the team, deciding to move east till further action. Later, Snake Eyes is brought to the Einsergen prison, where the warden named James welcomes him and transports him down into the subterranean prison. There he is to be held beside two notorious terrorists, Destro and Cobra Commander, both of whom are submerged in tanks and kept in a state of sleep with their bodies paralyzed, but their minds conscious. Warden James then orders Snake Eyes' helmet to be taken off, but he finds Storm Shadow under it pretending to be Snake Eyes. However, he does not care as long as he has a famous prisoner in his custody. Meanwhile, the remaining Joes travel through the Indus Valley Desert when Flint suggests contacting their headquarters. But Roadblock explains to him that they were set up by a powerful entity, probably the president, so they should lie low and can only trust Snake Eyes. Back at the prison, Storm Shadow is also put into a tank and paralyzed. Elsewhere, a Cobra operative on a bike releases several nanomites into his surroundings. In the desert, the Joes stumble upon an airbase and plan to use it to get back home. On the other hand, the nanomites arrive at the prison, and Storm Shadow sees one of them through a camera monitor and intentionally stops his heartbeat, forcing the security to open his tank up, allowing him to drown the guard trying to get him out, and escapes the tank when it is shattered by the guard's gunfire. The warden orders him to be killed, but he swiftly overpowers and kills the guards. Outside, the nanomites explode, taking out multiple guards, while Storm Shadow acquires his swords and uses them to cut through the incoming guards, but the warden escapes by using a nearby defibrillator to shock the wet floor and Storm Shadow. Meanwhile, the Cobra officer destroys fences and gates using heavy explosives from his bike. Storm Shadow frees Cobra Commander, who thanks him but decides to abandon Destro, while the warden and the guards are attacked by the explosives rolled in by the Cobra agent named Firefly. However, the warden is still alive and shoots a gas tank, setting off many explosions and harshly burns up Storm Shadow, whom Cobra Commander asks to be taken to the mountains to heal up before he starts his war. Elsewhere, Snake Eyes watches the prisoners escape in a helicopter as Jinx arrives and tells him that she can help him find Storm Shadow. Later, Cobra Commander returns to his base along with Zartan and Firefly, where his minions are building the weapon Zeus for him to rule the world. Zartan reports that 3 Joes have survived, which angers Cobra Commander, but Firefly volunteers to hunt them down. Later, the Joes arrive at Roadblock's native neighborhood, where his childhood friend named Stoop helps them get refuge at the local recreational center. There, Roadblock tasks Flint to list all of their remaining gear, while Lady J is instructed to contact any remaining Joes she can to get help and find out why the president is acting suspiciously. On the other side, Storm Shadow is getting his burns treated at a monastery high up in the snow mountains, while Jinx and Snake Eyes head there. On the way, they receive Lady J's message and inform her that they are in pursuit of Storm Shadow. Meanwhile, Flint worries that they don't have enough support to win their battle, but Roadblock motivates him by telling him the story of how he transformed from a bullied kid to a young fighter who was recruited by the Joes. Lady J then calls them to observe the changes in the president's speech patterns and gestures, which she claims are very odd, and suggests that the president may be an imposter. Thus, Roadblock brings them to the very first Joe named General Colton, whom they can trust. At his house, Roadblock informs him about the extermination of all the Joes, but Colton finds the theory of an imposter president impossible. However, he still helps them by informing them about where the president's chief of staff plays poker and his weaknesses. At night, when the chief of staff is returning home after a poker game, Lady J seduces him and forces him into a car, where the Joes ask him about changes in the behavior of the president, eventually forcing him to make a call for them. Elsewhere, Snake Eyes and Jinx reach the monastery, where Storm Shadow has just recovered from his injuries and is on his way out. As he dresses up, he sees a guard thrown down the mountain. So he gears up to fight and squares off with Snake Eyes. Storm Shadow attacks him with a shuriken, but Snake Eyes shoots them down, leading to a brawl between the two that goes back and forth. Meanwhile, Jinx also enters the building and is attacked by the woman who healed Storm Shadow, leading to a fight between them. She knocks the woman out while Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes drag their fight to a mountain ledge, where Storm Shadow gets on top of Snake Eyes. But Jinx arrives and uses a gas mask device to knock him out. They pack him up in a body bag and are suddenly surrounded by enemy soldiers on all sides, forcing Snake Eyes to throw the body down the mountain on a zipline, while they themselves use grappling hooks to get down the mountain fast. The guards pursue them, and they catch the body along the zipline, securing it against the edge of the mountain, while themselves engaging in a wall-walking sword fight with the enemy. It culminates with Snake Eyes luring the soldiers to a ledge above which there is a glacier that he shoots to cause an avalanche, making the enemy fall down the mountain. He himself miraculously survives the avalanche along with the body. Elsewhere, Jay infiltrates a party organized for the president, disguised as a reporter, and she signals Roadblock and Flint, who wait outside. Inside, she tries to use her looks to get Zartan's attention, while his bodyguard uses the cameras to check her identity in the database. She attracts the attention of Zartan, who invites her to dance with him, but she refuses and takes a hair from his jacket, placing it in a device to scan his DNA. The scan reveals Zartan's identity, as the bodyguard also discovers Jay's identity as a Joe, but she escapes before he arrives with his men. As Lady J escapes the building, Roadblock decides to use the opportunity to kill Zartan to avenge Duke while Zartan is getting into his car. Lady J and Flint oppose him, but he still aims, only to be stopped by Firefly's attacking nanomites, which force him to retreat and get into a fight with Firefly. The two exchange blows and Roadblock overpowers him. But Firefly grabs an iron rod lying around and beats Roadblock up. He is about to shoot him, but Jay and Flint drive him over in their car, but he still escapes on his bike. On the other hand, Storm Shadow is about to be executed by his own sword, which he used to kill the hard master of the dojo in his childhood. But he demonstrates his innocence by exposing the sword to be a fake, which breaks on impact. When he thinks of who might have framed him for murder, he realizes it was Zartan disguised as his new master. Back at the recreational center, Flint scolds Roadblock for being reckless, but he is adamant about his choice and leaves in anger. Lady J tells Flint her life story of getting into the army to prove her misogynist father wrong by outranking him, but he passed away before she could achieve her dream. Later at the White House, the Cobra commander arrives and acquires control of the US's nuclear assets by forcefully getting the president's retinal scan. At the recreational center, the Joes are having dinner and discuss Cobra Commander's plan and how it must be about nukes, as Zartan has been focused on conducting the summit of the nuclear powers. Just then, Jinx, Snake Eyes, and Storm Shadow arrive, and Flint is skeptical about Storm Shadow, but he has to accept him as he knows Cobra Commander's plan. They all hold a meeting at Colton's house, where they arm themselves from his arsenal of weapons, and he adds a couple of his friends to the plan as well. Later that night, Roadblock briefs them about the plan, assigning Colton's team to the perimeter, Flint, Jay, and Snake to the flank, while Jinx and Storm are to act as the Trojan horse. Roadblock himself decides to take on the tanks and emphasizes the briefcase in Zartan's hand as the ultimate price, which is for Storm Shadow to take as he would be closest to Zartan. He then asks Colton for suggestions, but he has nothing to add except getting Jay to his own team for help. The next morning, the leaders of nuclear powers start to arrive at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, where the nuclear summit is supposed to be held, and the security is very high as the media notes the unprecedented nature of such a summit, expecting positive changes from it. Moments later, the Cobra Commander and Storm Shadow arrive at the fort with their men as Zartan starts the meeting and dismisses the discussion to order all the leaders to clear out their nukes immediately, otherwise the US will announce war on them. He pulls out a briefcase and fires a few nukes to show he is not joking, making all the leaders panic. Meanwhile, the Joes are busy getting into positions and taking out the guards all around the fort, whereas the world leaders are forced to fire their nukes according to Zartan's plans. Elsewhere, Jay and Colton arrive at the presidential retreat in a vehicle as he shoots down many guards while Flint and Snake Eyes clear a part of the fort. Back at the meeting, Zartan self-destructs his nukes midair to make the other leaders feel guilty, making them self-destruct their nukes too, resulting in them all being without nukes. However, he introduces his new weapon system called the Zeus, a satellite system capable of dropping tungsten rods at a much higher speed than nukes without causing fallout. The introduction is overtaken midway by the Cobra Commander, who arrives and fires one such missile at London, causing major damage to the entire area. Moments later, Cobra orders his men to raise his flag over the White House and moves the satellites over the nuclear power countries, demanding complete allegiance or destruction. Just then, Storm Shadow begins the attack with Jinx and Snake Eyes joining in to take out the Cobra soldiers, while Zartan slips away with the briefcase. At the same time, Roadblock enters the perimeter with his improvised military vehicle that blows up tanks and avoids their fire through its agility. Back inside, Jinx escorts the leaders out of the building while Snake and Storm cut down the Cobra soldiers, with Storm going in pursuit of Zartan with Snake's sword in hand while Snake backs up Jinx in the corridors. Storm chases Zartan down to a flooded room where he takes out his minion before placing the sword at Zartan's throat, but a nanomite reaches there to blow them both up, after which Firefly calmly collects the briefcase and walks away. At the White House, Jay and Colton start taking out the guards one by one, and the head of security sends a guard up to the entrance of the basement when a guard comes falling down the stairs. All the guards aim for the entrance, but the body turns out to be Colton playing dead as he takes out the troops. Colton and Jay then move in on the cells where the head of security is holding the president hostage, but Jay shoots the president in the arm, making him fall and exposing the head of security to fire. The head of security is killed, and the president is released. Meanwhile, Zartan holds Storm at gunpoint in a room, but Storm deflects the bullet with his sword and throws it through his heart, killing him on the spot. Elsewhere, Jinx, Snake, and Flint clear out the courtyard, but Firefly sneaks away, while Cobra orders his Zeus satellite operators to get the weapons in position and gets in his helicopter to escape the Joes. Flint informs Roadblock about the escaping Firefly, so he abandons his vehicle, which is now dysfunctional, and sees Firefly riding away on his bike, so he pulls out his minigun to blow it up. He subsequently chases him to the docks, where Firefly boards a boat to get away. Roadblock takes out a few guards on his way to the docks and gives chase in another motorboat, while using a mounted gun on his boat to shoot and disable Firefly's boat, eventually running his vessel into Firefly's to destroy it completely. He then fights Firefly on the banks and gets him in a chokehold to make him unconscious, recovering the Zeus briefcase in the process and canceling the missile launches from the satellites at the final moment, leading them to explode within the satellites, thereby ending the threat of the Zeus weapon system. When Roadblock is walking away, Firefly tries to blow him up with a last nanomite but finds that the remote is in Roadblock's hands, which triggers it to blow Firefly up. On the other hand, Storm returns Snake's sword, who in turn hands it to Jinx as a form of her acceptance into the Joes. Later, the Joes are honored with medals for their sacrifices by the president, and Jinx is welcomed into the squad as Colton gifts his own gun to Roadblock for him to hunt down the Cobra Commander in the future. In a rebooted origin story, Snake Eyes begins decades before the modern G.I. Joe timeline in Washington state. A young boy walks through the woods toward a remote cabin with his father. The father senses something is wrong and looks around as if they are being watched, but he says nothing to avoid frightening his son. Later that night, the father wakes the boy and hides him just as a group of armed men storms the cabin. From his hiding place, the boy watches as the leader forces his father to roll a pair of dice to decide his fate. When the roll comes up Snake Eyes, the boy tries to intervene but is quickly restrained. The father creates a distraction, allowing his son to escape into the woods. From a distance, the boy helplessly watches as the men shoot his father and burn the cabin to the ground, leaving him alone, consumed by grief and anger. 20 years later, the boy has grown into a skilled fighter now known as Snake Eyes. He competes in a brutal underground fight and wins, drawing the attention of a man named Kenta Takamura. After the match, Kenta approaches him in the locker room, revealing that he has been watching Snake Eyes for some time. Impressed by his abilities, Kenta offers him a place within his organization. Snake Eyes initially refuses but changes his mind when Kenta promises help in tracking down the men responsible for his father's murder. 4 weeks later, Snake Eyes is working at a shipping dock in Los Angeles. A minor argument breaks out between him and a coworker over a child's ball, but another friendly worker steps in and leads him to his task. As they talk, the man casually mentions their involvement in gun smuggling. Soon after, Snake Eyes is summoned by their employer, where it is revealed they are working for the Yakuza. Kenta arrives and reveals that the friendly coworker is named Tommy. The two recognize each other immediately. Kenta then orders Snake Eyes to kill Tommy. As Snake Eyes raises the gun, he locks eyes with Tommy and hesitates, unable to carry out the execution. A violent brawl erupts inside the warehouse, giving Kenta the chance to escape in a truck. Snake Eyes and Tommy are left behind and must fight their way through waves of Yakuza to survive. Spotting Kenta boarding a ship, Tommy tries to reach him, but their pursuit is cut short when more Yakuza arrive, allowing Kenta to slip away.
Anytime you're ready.
The situation only ends when the police intervene, giving Snake Eyes and Tommy just enough time to escape, though Snake Eyes is badly injured during the chaos. Snake Eyes later wakes up aboard Tommy's private jet and realizes they are flying to Tommy's home. When Tommy asks why his life was spared, Snake Eyes admits that he saw honor in Tommy's eyes and could not bring himself to pull the trigger. Tommy then explains that he and Kenta are cousins and were once both next in line to lead their clan. Kenta, however, tried to kill Tommy in order to take control, forcing Tommy to banish him. Since that moment, Kenta has been working in secret to overthrow the clan. Because Snake Eyes helped Tommy escape, he has now become one of Kenta's targets. After some time, they arrive in Tokyo, Japan, and travel to the Arashikage clan's secluded dojo. There, Tommy introduces Snake Eyes to Akiko, the clan's head of security, and to Sen, Tommy's grandmother and the clan's leader. Sen thanks Snake Eyes for saving her grandson, but Snake Eyes insists he expects nothing in return. Tommy, however, has other plans and asks that Snake Eyes be allowed to join the clan. Akiko is wary of trusting an outsider, but Tommy argues that the clan needs a warrior like Snake Eyes, someone he can rely on completely. He also reminds Akiko that she too was once an outsider. Confident in his choice, Tommy believes that if Snake Eyes can survive the clan's 3 trials, he will prove himself worthy of becoming one of them. Later, Tommy makes it clear that the decision is Snake Eyes alone. If he chooses to stay, he must face the danger of completing 3 trials to earn a place in the clan. Tommy leads him to his quarters and tells him to make himself comfortable. Soon after, Snake Eyes begins training alongside the other recruits, with Tommy watching carefully. Although Snake Eyes shows clear skill and determination, Akiko remains suspicious. Her background checks on him have turned up nothing, which only deepens her concern. While Tommy is not worried, Akiko believes bringing Snake Eyes into the clan was a mistake. She confronts Tommy for trusting him too quickly, but Tommy stands by his decision, believing the first trial will reveal whether Snake Eyes truly belongs. The next day, Snake Eyes faces his first trial and is introduced to the Hard Master and the Blind Master, the 2 warriors who will guide his training in the Arashikage way. They teach that a true warrior must let go of ego, fight with honor, and act with selflessness and honesty to find balance. The Hard Master bluntly tells Snake Eyes that he expects him to fail and presents the first challenge. He fills 2 bowls with liquid and hands one to Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes must take the bowl from the Hardmaster's hand without spilling his own, and he is given 4 attempts. He fails badly on the first try. The second and third attempts end the same way. On his final chance, Snake Eyes pauses, looks at his bowl, and simply asks if they can exchange bowls instead. The Hardmaster agrees, and with that, Snake Eyes successfully completes his first trial. Later that evening during dinner, Snake Eyes learns that Tommy is the last remaining member of his bloodline and believes it is his duty to lead the clan. However, to protect their legacy in the modern world, Tommy knows he needs strong and loyal warriors by his side. As the conversation continues, Snake Eyes notices the blind and Hardmaster watching him closely. He mentions this to Akiko, who explains that the blind master is always observing and has the ability to sense when someone is not telling the truth. Later that night, Snake Eyes takes one of Tommy's motorcycles and secretly rides to a nearby bathhouse where he meets Kenta. It becomes clear that the two had been working together from the beginning. Saving Tommy's life was part of a plan to earn his trust. However, Snake Eyes admits he wants out, feeling that he has done all the work while Kenta has done nothing in return to keep him involved. Kenta offers the dice once owned by the men who killed Snake Eyes' father. Still, Snake Eyes insists that Kenta move quickly as his trials are continuing. Kenta then gives him a final task: steal the Jewel of the Sun, a sacred and priceless artifact of the Arashikage clan. In exchange, Kenta promises to reveal the identity of his father's killer. The next day, Tommy unknowingly tells Snake Eyes the legend of the Jewel of the Sun. The artifact is said to hold the power of the sun itself, a force the Arashikage swore to protect and never use. Only Tommy and his grandmother are permitted access to it. Afterward, Tommy rewards Snake Eyes for completing his first trial by presenting him with a sword named Morning Light. Sometime later, Snake Eyes searches the surrounding forest and discovers a heavily guarded structure, which he realizes must house the Jewel of the Sun. Akiko suddenly appears and questions what he is doing there. Snake Eyes claims he is simply training, and Akiko invites him to spar at her dojo. While they are fighting, Tommy interrupts with urgent news. He has uncovered Kenta's latest gun smuggling operation and plans to put an end to it. Without hesitation, Snake Eyes offers his help. Later that night, Snake Eyes, Tommy, and Akiko launch an attack on the smuggling operation. While Tommy and Akiko take down the Yakuza guards outside, Snake Eyes moves through the building, quietly dismantling the men inside. Together, they succeed in shutting the operation down. However, Kenta escapes after overpowering Tommy and slipping away before he can be captured. Soon after, they discover that Kenta has been working with Cobra, stockpiling weapons in preparation for an all-out war against the Arashikage clan. They reach out to Scarlet from the G.I. Joe team and share what they have learned. Scarlet reveals that Baroness, a high-ranking Cobra operative responsible for bombings across the world, is currently in Japan. Realizing this cannot be a coincidence, Scarlet immediately begins heading there. Later that same night, Snake Eyes secretly leaves again and heads into the city. Akiko follows him, but he manages to lose her and goes underground to meet Kenta. Snake Eyes tells him that he wants no part in working with terrorists. Before he can walk away, Baroness suddenly appears, confirming that Kenta is now fully aligned with Cobra. Snake Eyes refuses to join them, but Baroness delivers a final warning. She reveals that she has the man who murdered Snake Eyes' father and gives him 3 days to change his mind if he does not return. She threatens to release the killer. Soon after, Snake Eyes faces the second trial under the guidance of the Blind Master. This test must be completed alone in the forest. The Blind Master gives him a small glowing light and tells him to follow it. The light leads Snake Eyes into a vision of the night his father was killed. He desperately tries to change what happened, but no matter what he does, he cannot save him. Overcome with emotion, Snake Eyes apologizes to his father, who calmly tells him that he is simply glad his son survived. With that, the vision fades away. Snake Eyes asks if he has failed, but the Blind Master explains that this trial is not about passing or failing. Instead, it is meant to force a warrior to confront his inner weakness and overcome it before facing the final trial or risk death. As Snake Eyes reflects on his loyalty, he realizes that the dice he was given are fake. Attempting to enter Tommy's office, he accidentally triggers the security system, alerting Akiko. She confronts him about his behavior and warns that unless he empties his heart, he will fail the final trial. Snake Eyes insists that he is committed to the clan and convinces her of his determination to stay. The following day, Snake Eyes attempts the third and final trial. He descends into a deep pit and steps onto a tile that activates the test, releasing massive anacondas. The snakes are said to attack only those whose hearts are impure. Despite trying to let go of his anger, Snake Eyes fails to do so and is attacked. Just before it is too late, Akiko intervenes and helps him escape. Later, Snake Eyes stands before the Arashikage and confesses that his heart was clouded by his desire for revenge against his father's killer. Because of this, Sen decides that he must leave the clan. Disheartened, Snake Eyes returns to his quarters, where he finds Tommy, who is hurt by the betrayal. Snake Eyes apologizes and asks for a chance to make things right. To show his trust, he cuts his palm with the morning light sword and offers his hand. After a moment, Tommy accepts, sealing their bond. Snake Eyes later deceives both Tommy and Akiko into revealing the location of the Jewel of the Sun, using Tommy's blood. He opens the hidden safe and steals the jewel. Akiko tries to stop him, but Snake Eyes overpowers her and escapes. When the truth is uncovered, the clan realizes they have been betrayed, and Tommy swears to reclaim the jewel and bring Snake Eyes to justice. The next day, Snake Eyes meets with Kenta and hands over the jewel, choosing not to take part in the coming war. To demonstrate its power, Kenta uses the jewel to kill one of his own men and declares his plan to destroy the Arashikage clan before delivering the artifact to Baroness. As Kenta and his forces leave, Snake Eyes confronts the man who murdered his father. He forces him to roll the same dice that sealed his father's fate. The man admits he carried out the killing under Cobra's orders, realizing he has been manipulated all along. Snake Eyes spares the man's life and immediately turns on Kenta. As Snake Eyes races back toward the clan's stronghold, Tommy and Akiko track him down. During the chase, they realize Kenta's men are closing in on all of them. In a daring move, Snake Eyes pulls off a precise and reckless shot, taking out the first attacker and triggering a full-scale highway battle. While Kenta leads his army with the jewel in hand, Arashikage clan and Scarlet arrive at the castle just in time. At the same moment, Snake Eyes, Tommy, and Akiko fight Kenta's forces on the road. Snake Eyes eventually convinces Tommy to return to the castle and help defend the clan. Back at the stronghold, the Arashikage warriors clash with Kenta's troops. The Hard Master and Blind Master unleash a devastating assault, cutting down their enemies. Scarlet joins the battle but is eventually captured along with Sen. In the chaos, Kenta betrays Baroness by refusing to hand over the jewel and casting her aside, making it clear that he intends to claim its power for himself alone. Kenta tries to force Sen to surrender, turning violent when she refuses to submit. Before he can go further, Snake Eyes arrives, drawing Kenta's attention and buying the others time. Sen, Scarlet, and Baroness reluctantly work together to escape, while Tommy and the Hard Master and Blind Master confront Kenta's army head-on. Soon after, Snake Eyes reunites with them, and with the support of the Arashikage warriors, they begin to overwhelm Kenta's forces. As the remaining enemies are defeated, Kenta uses the Jewel of the Sun to keep himself alive. Baroness seizes the opportunity to flee, while the Arashikage launch fireworks to knock the jewel from Kenta's grasp. Tommy retrieves the stone and, driven by anger, uses its power against Kenta before Sen steps in and takes it from him. Although badly beaten, Kenta manages to escape. Snake Eyes pursues Kenta into the forest, where the two engage in a brutal final fight. Kenta wounds Snake Eyes, but Snake Eyes manages to trap him by dragging him into the pit filled with anacondas using an iron chain. Sensing the darkness in Kenta's heart, the snakes attack and devour him. When Snake Eyes falls in as well, the anacondas initially surround him, but they release him after sensing that his heart is no longer ruled by revenge. With the jewel finally secured, Sen announces that Tommy can no longer lead the Arashikage clan, as he used the jewel's power in anger. Furious at losing his birthright, Tommy storms off, vowing to kill Snake Eyes the next time they meet. In the aftermath, Snake Eyes tells Akiko that he must track Tommy down. Before he leaves, Akiko presents him with a black suit. Soon after, Scarlet reveals the truth about Snake Eyes' father. He was a G.I. Joe who was killed while infiltrating a Cobra cell, but not before saving countless lives. Scarlet invites Snake Eyes to join the G.I. Joes when he is ready. Snake Eyes declines for now, choosing instead to hunt down Tommy. As he walks away in his new suit, it is revealed that Baroness has taken Tommy under her wing. Now calling himself Storm Shadow, he emerges as Snake Eyes' newest and most dangerous enemy. That's all for now. Make sure to enjoy your holidays, and I'll catch you on the next one.